Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where executive coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hey there, senior executive leaders. Welcome. Episode number 90. Incredible. We are at episode 90, almost to 100. Crazy. So we around the Cowan House are getting into end of year activities. We have about 5 weeks left of school. And we had the 8th grade dance last night for my son. So cute. So adorable. And he's got grad venture next week. And yeah, there's all the testing and the last weeks of finals, all that stuff that's happening. And so it is never a short of activity around here, around the house. And I've been recently connecting a lot in person with friends and clients and peers. And so I want to shout out a couple of wins. This conversation that I'm going to have with you today is all about taking you a little bit behind the scenes of what I've been talking about, what I've been hearing, what's been going on. So why not start with the wins of what I've heard? I've been hearing from some of you listeners, and we've been talking about the job search and the job hunt for executives recently. And so thank you for those of you who've reached out and said, some of you are sharing some of the episodes on the executive jobs search and networking with friends that are in the job hunt. So thank you for that. I've also heard from some of you that are getting the confidence to level up and apply to new levels that you've never applied to, meaning the C-suite level when you're at a VP or senior VP executive level, and you're getting the confidence and getting the courage to level up. So congratulations. I also have just celebrated a friend that had a role elimination in 1 week, and then within weeks had another C-level role offer that she accepted, all through networking. So I want to stress this happens. I've seen it happen live and in person. It can happen, but it is not happening through applying. A lot of times, again, these leaders are saying there's not even really a real interview process. It's more going to dinner, talking, networking, connecting, and that is the interview, as well as the reputation of your work that preceded you. So huge thing. And the last win I want to share is there's a leader out there that has really been gaining a lot of confidence in her leadership. She had before getting rocked by some of the feedback that she'd been receiving, some of it valid, some of it not. But either way, gaining confidence and being able to be not rocked by some of the feedback and moving forward and having her own back in these roles. And this is the stuff that I'm hearing out there. And so I share that with you today because we're going to do a little tough love today. We're going to do some myth busting around the executive level. We're going to talk about what sometimes nobody is telling you about what it takes to get there, what it takes to be there and stay there, and what it takes also if you decide to leave that level. And this is not the cute kind of myth busting. This is the kind of myth busting that might call you out a little, because there is a very real gap out there between what people think this executive journey looks like and what it actually requires. And I'm lucky I get to see this across the board behind the scenes of what really happens. So whether you are trying to land the role, survive the role, level up in the role, or you're just quietly thinking about leaving the role, you may be at the same level of talent, the same level of capability out there, but you might be getting very different results than your peers or friends that are around you. And I will say this, it usually comes down to this. It is not about effort. It's definitely not about your intellect, but it's truly how you're thinking about it and how you're approaching it. So let's get into it. This is going to be typically for 3 audiences. The executive that is out there searching for the next role, whether you are out of a role right now or you're in a role just looking for the next role, you are a job seeker at the executive level. 2, if you are an executive new enroll. Maybe you're recently promoted, or maybe you recently went to a new company. And three, the executive that may be thinking about what's next for them. At every single stage, I see very incredibly capable leaders that slow themselves down. And it's not because of their skill, it's totally mindset, strategy, or the lack of support. So if you hear yourself in any of these examples as I'm talking about today, just notice it. It's usually that awareness alone that is usually where the work starts. So let's dive into the first group here, the executive job seeker. So here's some of the myths that I hear out there. With my executive job seekers, I hear this myth that if they're out of work, that they shouldn't be spending money on getting support. Maybe it's coaching, maybe it's resume or branding, helping with LinkedIn and their profiles. They don't want to spend any sort of money on themselves or their future development or future role. Or one of my personal favorites, if I just apply to a ton of roles and I treat it like a full-time job to be in the job hunt and attack it, I'll be just fine. And what I hear layered underneath that is usually I'm maybe not ready for that executive or that C-suite level role that I want to go for. So I'm just going to keep myself safe. I'll just play it safe. So that thought process is not based in reality here. So I want to give you some reality and some reality checks here about the job search for the executive level. Here's the reality. This is not a volume game at this level. I talked about this in my previous two podcasts, really about the executive job hunt. This is a game of precision and positioning. And so, what I mean by that is a lot of leaders, executive level leaders, I'm shocked to hear that they're still approaching this as like a junior level applicant. More applications out there. Applying on a job board does not equal better outcomes. It usually equates to more noise and more frustration. And so I just saw a post from a colleague online, a friend of mine, and I was so shocked because they were venting online on LinkedIn and they were basically saying, I've been applying for hundreds of jobs online. I've been doing all of this work and I'm just not hearing anything. And I'm out doing gig work, trying to support myself and things like that. And again, I feel empathy for this person and I feel the frustration, right? And I get it. But I have to say, at executive levels, this is not the approach to take. At this level, speed also really matters more than you think it does. So it does take time at the executive level to find roles, and sometimes it can happen very fast. So every extra month that you're out there figuring it out on your own, going it alone, can be very expensive. Financially, yes, absolutely. And also momentum, the confidence, the positioning. So I heard it again in this post. It's tough, but I have to say, you don't need to work harder. You need to get clearer about your search and focused. And most executives that I'm experiencing out there, they're actually overqualified for the work that they're doing, but they're under positioning themselves for the roles that they want. So I tell you, if you're executive job searcher out there, you are not stuck. You are just not accurately seeing yourself in the market and being positioned that way. So let's talk about one additional angle if you're an executive in the job hunt. It's also the offer and the negotiation stage. So if you can get through that job hunt and then you get to the part where you're receiving an offer, so exciting. But let's talk about this part because this is the part that no one truly prepares you for. It's the offer. And I see leaders, they're executives that are responsible and they're about to take on responsibility for millions, if not sometimes billions, in revenue for the role that they're about to take. And they freeze. they freeze up when it's time to ask for more because it's about themselves. It's not about what they're negotiating for others, for their team, maybe for their organization. It's for themselves. And this one single conversation where you're negotiating for your pay, your executive compensation, this is where coaching and getting external support about contract negotiation, it can pay for itself immediately. And so please, if you're an executive in the offer stage, don't quietly lose that value, the compensation, the scope, some of the protections that need to be written in, the influence that you need to have. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about for myth busting. It's okay if you don't believe that you're ready yet. You can actually borrow somebody else's belief in you until yours catches up. I actually, very recently I had a VP tell me, that potentially in her job search, she's going to go lateral. She's not C-suite material. Meanwhile, everybody around her was like, you would run circles around some of these C-suite leaders that I'm seeing. Like you are already at, and if not beyond this level. She just needed herself to see it and then to start moving like she was. And so it's okay to borrow somebody else's, to include your coach's, belief in you until yours catches up. These roadblocks that executive job hunts that they're experiencing, a lot of times they're internal. So what I just mentioned was things like confidence gaps, playing small, and or lack of clarity on what they actually want. So if you're in the job search and you are listening and thinking, I might be playing it too small right now, good. That awareness is useful. That is the exact moment that I want you to hear where things might start to shift for you. So if you were underestimating your market value and maybe you're over delivering for yourself, either in your current or your previous role, this is a call out to you. If you think you need to go for that next level role, start to borrow some of my belief and start to think about how you're going to position yourself differently in the market. Okay, so those are the myths. That's the reality. Now let's move on to getting and landing the role. So this is the executive that might be newly promoted. So that you're within the same organization, but you get a new level role and promotion and title. Or you're maybe transferring and going to a new company. You started a new company, whether it's lateral or if it's a promotion, but you're new to an organization. So here's the myths that I hear. So you get the role, and some of the myths that I hear at this level is, okay, great. I've gotten to the executive level role. And once I get there, I'm going to have all the support I need. I'll be given a beautiful onboarding plan. I'm going to have a smooth onboarding. And I have to, laugh to say, sure, in theory, sounds beautiful. Sometimes even the most well-intentioned organizations tell you this, I promise you this. However, I have to say, in reality, what I've experienced with leaders and what I've heard is you are expected to deliver quickly. Most of these organizations right now are moving at a clip that is unprecedented. You are expected to have an onboarding plan for yourself. You're expected to get quick wins. You're expected to have a strong leadership presence and develop great relationships right off the bat with not only your direct report team, your executive colleagues, your leaders, and you need to start having clear direction and making clear decisions. And often you're getting very little context and even less support. And what I've noticed with the executives I support through this type of work is that even if the best laid plans are set up, I inevitably will experience a new unprecedented experience. Maybe there's a reorganization, maybe they have some turnover, maybe they pick up a new function because they actually are performing well really quickly. There's all of these things that unexpectedly come up during the first 90 days, during the first 6 months that I am supporting them with. Promise you, there's something unexpected that is on the way. So here's the deal. During this new hire phase, again, either a promotion or a new company, you're not really being properly onboarded as you would as a junior level employee. You are actually really truly being evaluated quickly. And there's typically not these executives or the board that is out there like just clearing the runway for you. You are the runway. And so your first 90 days, your first 6 months, it's not like this like sweet little on-ramp warm-up phase. It's the game. So the first 90 days to first 6 months are high stakes. They are under supported. And so you have to be ready for this. You are not being set up for success typically. You are being tested. And this is where strategy really matters more than your effort. Like you can't just muscle through this. And working harder here, it doesn't fix misalignment or the transformation that needs to happen. It can just burn you out faster. So let's talk about reality here. What actually really helps is having a very strategic entry plan that you have created. It's not just about jumping into a new role and starting to execute. It's things like mapping out your stakeholders, thinking through your visibility and how to be very intentional, how to make decisions with confidence with very ambiguous situations. So, if you're an executive out there and you're like, oh my gosh, my first entry into the organization, my first entry in this new role, it feels heavier, way heavier than I expected. You're not doing it wrong. That is actually what's expected at that level. And I'm telling you, you don't have to figure it out alone, even though these are the realities. A lot of leaders try to, but you don't have to be in that space. And this is not a complete option for you. It's definitely not required to struggle through it. It just is a signal of the level that you're operating at. You are not failing here. Okay. So those are the myths. That's what I kind of see in role or new in role for leaders is just, again, trying to navigate the gray matter. So going into the third phase here, this is the executive in role and thinking about what's next for them, maybe leveling up. So here's the myths that I hear at this phase. Okay, real talk. I'm shocked to hear this, but even leaders at very high levels of organizations, I've heard, I thought if I just keep my head down, if I work hard, I do what's right, I stay loyal, I'll surely get recognized. Someone else will take care of me. And they're defaulting and turning their career over to someone at a higher level. They're above them, maybe their boss, maybe the board. They're truly turning their level over. Again, I always keep my clients' confidentiality very safe, but this is a very real story that I've heard out there that just hard work and loyalty will get me there. And my goodness, I really, really wish that this were true. It would make life a lot easier for all of us at this level, right? I've also heard things like at the executive level, some people fearful to go for the next level. Maybe it's the senior level or the executive level. I've heard people like shy away from it and say things like, if I go for the next level promotion, I'm really scared about the trade-offs I need to make. I might lose myself or my life. I might not be able to be a working parent, maybe have another kid, maybe have a significant other, and still go for that next level role. And that breaks my heart. Another myth I hear at this level is that I shouldn't have to play the politics of the organization. And I just don't want to play this politics. And I hate to tell you, but if you're at this level, you already are. You already are in the game. You just might not be choosing to see it. And the last thing I hear at this level is that sometimes people, when they're sitting in role, they believe that executive coaching is for people that are underperforming. So they feel like they need to put their head down, work hard, do it all themselves. And they feel like if they need to get external support, that something's gone terribly wrong. When really, it's a proactive investment in yourself and in your own development. Just had a C-suite level leader say, I've been pouring into everyone else and no one's been pouring into me. I haven't invested in myself. So coaching in that myth for people that aren't meeting expectations. Again, it can happen and it does happen. But the myth is that it's only to bring performance up to a minimal acceptable level. Just not true. So here is the reality at this level. When you are in role, performance can get you into the room when you are a junior level and you get up to the executive level. However, when you're in the room and you're executive, influence, visibility, and yes, sometimes do playing the political game, that is what moves you forward. At this level, it's expected to do your job well. It is table stakes. So you don't get promoted for just doing your job well. You get promoted for proving and showing you can actually do the next level role and lead at a bigger level at an enterprise level. Hard work, baseline, not the differentiator at this level. And at this level, as an executive, if no one knows how you're thinking, meaning you're not communicating it well, then they will not trust how you're going to lead. So here's the deal. I want to take on that word that I just mentioned that everyone loves to hate is the political game. Corporate politics are not about being fake. You don't have to be inauthentic in order to play the political corporate game. It's also understanding about how decisions actually get made. So if you decide you want to take an active part in that, again, you're already part of it, whether you're choosing to be or not, you can do it in a way that still aligns with your values. All right. So that's the deal. So the critical growth areas when people are in role and what I see them working on as executives is one, finding their voice in the room. So a lot about being an executive is truly finding your true authentic voice. It's about learning to speak up even before you might feel 100% ready to speak up. It's getting your own back before anybody else does and saying, I've got this no matter what. I was just coaching a leader this week on this, and it's so helpful to be able to learn how to communicate clearly. A second thing that we work on, critical growth in this area, can be managing imposter syndrome when you get up to these higher stakes roles. Here's the deal. Confidence does not come first when you become an executive. It's the evidence. So you have to do this by creating the evidence. You have to have the courage first, then you have to act. And a lot of people are doing it the opposite way. They're thinking and waiting for the confidence to come to be able to act. And that's the gig, right? You don't need permission at this level to operate at the next level. You just need to be able to have that courage to put yourself out there. And the last thing I see is also when you're in role is leading without burning out. And here's the deal. As a leader at an executive level, you truly are an asset. You actually are the asset, right? And so if you're not managing yourself as the asset and you're not managing that well, everything else can start to erode. Meaning, like if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to have the ability to function at the high level that you need to in order to do your job well. Just talking to a CEO about this week as well, feeling like you have to make all of these trade-offs on your health and your well-being in order to lead, and not realizing that in order to lead, you need your health and well-being. Okay. All right. So if you feel like you are in role and there's a smarter way to do these things, there is. And that's the deal here. So for most high performers in role, they don't need more effort to function in the role. They need the refinement. All right. So the last phase that I want to talk about, it's the executive that might be considering an exit. This one doesn't really get talked about enough, and I don't necessarily talk a ton about this one, but I do help people that are at this executive level and they have this myth. The myth here is that if they believe, like, if I make it to a certain level, I have the title, I have the pay, I'll surely be set. I'll be happy. I'll stay. And if I get there, I'll be happy forever. And there's another myth that I can't leave. I have these golden handcuffs. I need this money. Maybe there's a retention bonus tied to it. Just coach a leader through this. And if they're thinking about leaving, something must be truly wrong. So all these things are just, again, myths. The reality is, sometimes when you get there as an executive leader, you realize this is not the end of my story. And I coach a lot of leaders to help embrace that realization is not a failure. It's just an evolution of who they are. It's the season that they might be in. And evolution at the executive level is so normal. So sometimes I'll coach leaders and let them know, like, you can truly love your role. You can be really grateful for everything that was done for you. You can be happy in your company and with your team, and you can still want more. So, what coaching looks like at this level is to help coach leaders through the thoughts of leaving doesn't require them to burn a bridge. You don't have to demonize your company or your boss or your team. You don't have to be running away from something. You can actually walk towards something and not away from the organization. So at this phase, the executive exit, you have to, again, have the clarity on your values, have the courage to face all the things that come up with a potential exit, the fear, the guilt, the identity shift, because sometimes people are so ingrained with their title and their level in their company, and then shape out what is the intentional design of the next chapter. So if you started asking yourself, you got to that level and you're like, is this it? That's not a problem. It's not a problem to fix. It's a question to potentially explore. And I've helped a couple of leaders do this recently. The best exits that I see are very thoughtful and not reactive. They're not coming from a place of like high intensity of emotion where you're just making a decision on a whim. They're very, very strategic and thoughtful. So that is the fourth phase. So I want to tie it all together and give you just the through line here. So at every phase, at every level, the myth that really runs through all of this is that as an executive, there's this belief that I should be able to do this alone. It's a lot of pressure. And the reality is, the higher that you go, the more that strategic support really matters. To wrap yourself with a team and wrap yourself with people that can support you and hold you and help you through some of these matters and help you actually be more of who you truly are. Definitely not trying to tell you what to do, but helping reflect back what really matters to you. I had somebody say to me this week, they said, I really love that your approach is holistic. It's not just about being in a company as an executive, it's about your whole life, about your personal life, your family matters, your personal values that come into play. And executive coaching is exactly that. It's not about fixing you, it's about accelerating you. I had somebody say this and make this analogy. It's like the fast pass that you get at the theme parks, and that's it. And so for me, investing in coaching is like a very small percentage of your annual salary that can flip into a massive ROI. You don't get time back. And so, how do you accelerate time? How do you get clarity faster? How do you potentially negotiate compensation quicker? How do you accelerate your own career trajectory in a way that feels right and good to you? So, those are the myths that I want to share with you. And so, today, if something in this episode hits, don't overthink it and overanalyze it. That is just usually enough that it's your signal that if it hits, it's resonating. That's a sign. The leaders that I work with are not the ones that are struggling. Quite the contrary. They're actually the ones that are high performing, that are ready to move faster, that are ready to move with more intention. And so if that is you, reach out. It's easy. We'll figure out what makes sense. All right, what that looks like, so easy. You just go to my website. It's EliciaCowanCoaching.com. It is always in the show notes. It's ElisiaKeown coaching.com. You can schedule time to meet with me. You can shoot an email, ask me questions, and I'm happy to give you all the answers you need to understand if this makes sense for us to work together. As always, thank you for listening. Go get them. We'll talk to you next time. Bye, friends.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.